friends, welcome back. Today we are going to talk about my Accutane experience and things that I would do differently if I could go back. So I started my Accutane treatment in December of 2019 and it went through May of 2020. It was kind of a roller coaster of emotions, wondering whether or not the end result would be worth all of the side effects that I was experiencing and wondering if any of the reports that I was reading about long-term damage and effects that Accutane causes held any water. So with this video, I want to walk through my treatment chronologically, and then at the end I'll talk about what I would do differently if I could go back in time. So let's start at the beginning. Ever since I was a teen, I've had mild to moderate hormonal acne, mostly around my chin and mouth area. While the acne itself was never really bad or painful, it did create a lot of scarring, which was my main concern. I tried every over-the-counter cream, cleanser, topical medication that I could find, both drugstore level and stuff that I would find at like Sephora or Ulta, and nothing would work long term. It was like I would find something and it would work for a couple weeks and then just eventually stop. So finally, at 25 years old, I decided that I was tired of this crap and I decided to book an appointment with a dermatologist. So I went to the dermatologist's office, I explained my frustration with the current state of my skin, and without even missing a beat, he said, "Would you like to cure it for good?" Obviously. That sounds wonderful. That's exactly what I want to do. That's why I'm here. In his opinion, Accutane was the only long-term solution. He said that he could prescribe me different kinds of creams and antibiotics that would work for as long as I was using them, but as soon as I stopped using them, the acne would come back. In his opinion, Accutane was the only long-term solution. He did warn me of the side effects though, mentioning that I would experience really dry skin and dry cracked lips, as well as some joint pain and dry eyes. I would also have to be on 2 forms of birth control throughout my treatment because the medication can cause serious side effects if I were to get pregnant while I was taking it. He also said that I would have to undergo monthly blood tests to check for liver function, cholesterol levels, stuff like that. Then we got into the financial cost of this. So the medication itself isn't cheap, but thankfully the doctor's office helped me to get set up with a home delivery pharmacy that basically applies every discount that they possibly can to the best price. So between the discounts that the pharmacy was giving me and my insurance, it ended up being about $50 a month for the medication itself. But we can't forget to factor in the dermatologist's office visits and the monthly blood tests into that total cost. So all in all, I had to visit my dermatologist's office 9 times during my treatment. Each visit was $120 copay. And then for blood tests, I had to get my blood tested 5 times during the treatment. Each was about $50 copay. Now, all of these figures I'm giving you are with insurance. If I didn't have insurance, it would have been much more expensive. If you add all of that together, the 5 months of treatment, the 9 doctor's office, and the 5 blood tests, it ended up being roughly $1,500 for the entire process, which at the time was a lot of money for me, frankly. And I justified it by saying, okay, well, I'm spending so much money on all of these expensive creams and cleansers and over-the-counter medications that aren't working. So I'm gonna take all of that money that I'm gonna spend in the future over the next 2, 3, however many years and put it towards this one supposedly forever cure. And honestly, at the time, all of this seemed like a really small price to pay to have clear skin forever. So I went forward with the treatment. Month 1, I was taking 40 milligrams per day. So that was 2 20 milligram pills, 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. Honestly, this first month wasn't that bad. I did get a lot of dryness on my face and my lips especially, but it wasn't anything that a little bit of moisturizer and Aquaphor couldn't fix. The best part about it all was my skin was the clearest that it had been in years. And because I was shedding so much dead skin off of my face, my acne scars were starting to fade really quickly as well. However, I did notice that it was getting increasingly hard to wear makeup during this first month, because anytime that I would try to put on foundation or tinted moisturizer, it would just end up looking worse than my actual face because of all the peeling that was happening. So I ended up going without makeup for a majority of the month, only wearing sunscreen and a little bit of concealer if I needed it. Month 2, we increased the dose to 60 milligrams a day. So again, that was 30 milligram pill in the morning, another one at night. I could definitely feel the increase in side effects with the increase in dose. This was the month that the dandruff started. I've never had dandruff before in my life. It came in month 2 of my Accutane treatment and continued on through the end of the treatment and beyond. This was also the month that the joint pain started in. It was still pretty mild at this point, but I did have some pain in my knees, hips, and my lower back. I used Tylenol to keep it under control on the really bad days. The dryness continued, and I learned that I needed to take moisturizer and chapstick with me pretty much anytime I would leave the house. I also gave up on makeup completely this month because I realized there's no point in trying to put on makeup if my skin's just gonna dry out in 20 minutes regardless of how much moisturizer I used beforehand. The silver lining to all of this was that my scalp also stopped producing as much oil, meaning I could go pretty much an entire week without washing my hair, no dry shampoo needed, and my hair would still look freshly washed at the end of the week. At this point, even with the increase in side effects, I was still confident in my decision to continue the treatment. The side effects did not outweigh the benefits yet. Month 3. We increased the dose yet again. This time we increased it to 80 milligrams a day. This month was bad. I would wake up in the morning with so much pain in my knees and my hips that I struggled to even get out of bed. I couldn't go on walks or runs with my dogs around the neighborhood because I would just be in so much pain the entire time. I literally felt like my knees were going to explode. Both of my knees also became very swollen during this month. I pretty much became a vegetable for this entire month, partially because the side effects were so bad, and partially because it was March 2020 and the world was kind of ending at this point. My eyes also started to get extremely dry during this month to the point where I would have to use eye drops regularly. Otherwise, my vision would start to get blurry just from the dryness. Thankfully, I don't wear contacts, so I didn't have to worry about that, but I could see how that dryness would make it pretty difficult to wear contacts. I also started to get really bad nosebleeds during this month. I would get them about once or twice a week, and I just assumed that it was from how dry the inside of my nose had gotten. This was the month that I started to wonder whether or not I had made the right choice. I called my doctor about the extreme pain and swelling in my knees because at this point I was worried that I was going to get some kind of lasting damage from this. He assured me that all of these side effects were very normal for a dose this high. He also advised that if the side effects ever got unbearable, that I could skip 1 pill for that day. So like I said, I'm taking 2 pills a day at this point. Both are 40 milligrams each, so he's saying that I could just skip 1 pill if the side effects ever got really bad. So I took his advice, and during the rest of that month, I think I skipped 2 pills, just when the knee and the hip pain were at their worst. Month 4. There was a slight hiccup this month. So you know I said I had to take monthly blood tests while on Accutane? Well, this month my blood test came back showing that there was something wrong with my liver. My doctor told me that it was nothing to be alarmed by, but we were going to take 1 week off of the medication and no alcohol at all during that week. He also advised me to try to avoid alcohol throughout the rest of the treatment, which makes sense because I was trying to avoid alcohol during this treatment anyways because I was worried about getting liver damage, but I was still having a couple glasses of wine on the weekends. After the week off, I went and had a second blood test and it came back normal. So it was back to 80 milligrams a day. Joy. The side effects picked back up right where they left off. The worst of it was the knee and the hip pain. The bright side was we were in full pandemic lockdown at this point. It was April 2020. So sitting on the couch all day wasn't the end of the world. However, I do consider myself a fairly active person, so it was kind of hard for me both mentally and physically, just not getting any exercise and becoming a literal couch potato. I also started noticing the hair loss this month. I could tell that my hair was thinning out and I was losing a lot more of it in the shower and while brushing it than usual. At this point, I began to regret this decision. I started to convince myself that, oh, my acne wasn't actually that bad and maybe this wasn't all worth it. But in the back of my mind, I knew that I only had 1 month left of treatment. And I can make it that far, right? Month 5. I was pretty pleased when my doctor said that we could lower the dose. We lowered it to 60 milligrams a day. Unfortunately, the side effects did not seem to decrease along with the dose. Joint pain in full force. I was ready for this month and this entire experience to end. I celebrated my last day of the medication and I could not wait for my body to get back to normal. The aftermath. Once it was all said and done, I was very pleased during my first few months post-treatment. I had absolutely no acne, and all of my side effects stopped quickly after I stopped taking the medication. I was assured that the hair loss would be temporary, but I don't think that my scalp or my hair ever returned back to normal. My scalp is still extremely dry over 1 year later, drier than it ever was pre-Accutane. And my hair is still just as thin as it was when I stopped treatment. I will say the excessive shedding has subsided, but maybe it just takes a while for the hair that I did lose during the treatment to grow back. I was also assured that the medication would not cause lasting damage to my joints or my organs, but the more that I read about the medication online from very reputable sources, I might add, the more I doubt that assurance. Things started to take a turn almost exactly 1 year after I stopped treatment. The acne returned in full force, which was very upsetting to me because I went through about 5 months of misery only for 1 year of clear skin, which in my opinion was not worth it. I knew that if I returned to the dermatologist when my acne came back, that they would try to put me on the medication again for a maintenance round, and I did not want to go through that again. I had heard really good things about retinoids, and I heard that there was one available over the counter now. So I went to Target and I picked up Differin Gel. I started using it regularly, and in about 2 weeks my skin was clear again. I've been using it about 4 or 5 times a week ever since. In conclusion, if I could go back, I would request that my doctor prescribe me some sort of retinoid before jumping straight to Accutane. In all honesty, my acne was not that bad. It was never extremely painful, it wasn't cystic. The worst part about it was just the scarring. But I've had such great results with Differin Gel over the last 6 months that I've been using it that I wonder if I would have had that same result if I tried it without the Accutane. But I guess we'll never know. I'm posting this as a cautionary tale. If you're unsure about whether or not you want to start Accutane, my advice as a non-medical professional speaking from experience only would be to try other options first if your acne is in the mild to moderate range. I don't think Accutane is for everybody, and at this point, I don't really think it was for me. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this information informative. If you have any questions about my treatment specifically, feel free to comment them down below. I'll get to them as soon as I can. But keep in mind, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional. I can't tell you what you should or shouldn't do. I can only answer questions about my treatment specifically. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Say bye. Say bye. Say bye.